My landlord messed with the wrong tenant, petty revenge. The chipped ceramic tile in my bathroom had been bothering me for months. Not enough to report, just enough to be a persistent visual annoyance, like a hangnail you can't stop picking at. It was the kind of thing Mr. Harding, our new landlord, wouldn't even notice, too preoccupied as he was with installing trendy and questionably functional smart locks on the front doors. Before Harding, we had Mrs. Davison, a sweet, grandmotherly woman who knew everyone's name and always had a kind word. She might have been slow to fix things, but she cared. Harding cared about profit margins, not people. The first sign was the convenience fee tacked onto the online rent payment. $4.99. Small, but insulting. I paid it, grumbling under my breath, and started a new folder on my computer labeled Harding Rent BS. Inside went a screenshot of the payment confirmation. I'm a software engineer, documenting things is practically a reflex. Then came the water bill increase, attributed to citywide rate hikes. Except, according to the city's website, the rates hadn't changed. Another screenshot, another document added to the folder. Sarah, my neighbor across the hall, a nurse with perpetually tired eyes and an even more perpetually cheerful disposition, stopped me in the hallway. "Did you see the notice about the laundry room?" I hadn't. We walked down to the basement. The once free laundry machines now had card readers attached. $3 per wash, $3 per dry, Sarah read aloud, her voice flat. That's going to be tough. Sarah was a single mom working double shifts to make ends meet. "It's ridiculous," I said, feeling a surge of anger. I didn't use the laundry room much myself, but I knew Sarah relied on it. "I'll look into it." I did. A quick search online revealed that Harding was legally required to provide free laundry facilities as part of our leases, which predated his ownership. I printed out the relevant section of the city's housing code and slipped it under Sarah's door with a note. The next day, the laundry room notice was gone. Progress, I thought. Small victories. But Harding wasn't done. The building's ancient boiler started acting up. The heat became erratic, fluctuating wildly from sweltering to frigid. I woke up one morning shivering, the thermostat reading 58 degrees. I emailed Harding. No response. I called. No answer. I bundled up in layers and walked to my favorite coffee shop, clutching my laptop. As I waited for my latte, I saw Maria, the building's resident gossip and unofficial historian, shuffling down the street. Maria had lived in the building for over 40 years and knew everything about everyone. "Liam, dear," she exclaimed, her voice raspy. "Terrible, isn't it? This Harding, he's a monster, Mrs. Davison would never." She launched into a detailed account of Mrs. Davison's exemplary boiler maintenance practices, interspersed with anecdotes about past tenants and building scandals. I steered the conversation back to the present. "Maria, do you know anything about the boiler situation?" "No, anything. I know everything. Harding's trying to save money. He told Barry to turn it down at night." Barry was Harding's hulking, perpetually scowling maintenance man. Bingo. That evening, I bought a cheap digital thermometer and placed it near the thermostat. I documented the temperature fluctuations every few hours, creating a detailed log. A week later, a notice appeared on my door: rent increase. I stared at the number. It was significantly higher than the legally allowable increase. Harding was blatantly ignoring rent control laws. He probably thought I wouldn't notice, wouldn't bother to check. He'd clearly pegged me as the quiet, unassuming tenant who wouldn't cause trouble. He couldn't have been more wrong. I called David, a lawyer friend from college. David was sharp, ethical, and had a knack for navigating bureaucratic red tape. I explained the situation, sending him my meticulously compiled folder of evidence. "This is textbook," David said, after reviewing the documents. "He's violating multiple city ordinances. We can fight this." He advised me to send Harding a certified letter outlining the illegal rent increase and demanding he adhere to the legal limits. I did, attaching copies of my documentation. Harding's response was a terse email: "The rent increase is non-negotiable. If you don't like it, you can leave. Game on." A few days later, I found another notice on my door. This one accused me of damaging the elevator. Apparently, I had scratched the panel and was responsible for the repair costs $800. I hadn't even been in the elevator that day. This was blatant extortion. He was trying to intimidate me to bleed me dry. My anger boiled over. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about principle, about standing up to bullies. I called David again. "He's escalating," I said, my voice tight. "He's accusing me of vandalism." "Document everything," David said. "Take photos of the alleged damage. Get a written statement from anyone who can corroborate your whereabouts on that day." I did. I took photos of the elevator panel. The scratch looked suspiciously like it had been made with a key. I talked to Sarah, who confirmed she'd seen me working on my laptop in the lobby all afternoon. Then, I did something I probably shouldn't have, but I was too angry to care. I knocked on Maria's door. "Maria," I said, "have you seen anything unusual around the elevator lately?" Her eyes twinkled. "Unusual? Oh, Liam, you wouldn't believe." She launched into a rambling story about a delivery man and a broken hand truck, but I steered her back to the elevator. "And then," she said, lowering her voice conspiratorially, "I saw Barry and Mr. Harding down there. Barry had a key, and Mr. Harding was watching him." My jaw dropped. "Watching him do what, Maria?" "Well," she said, pausing for dramatic effect, "it looked like he was scratching the panel." Jackpot. David was livid when I told him. "You can't rely on hearsay, Liam. Maria is a notorious gossip. We need concrete evidence." "But what if she's telling the truth?" I argued. "What if Harding orchestrated this whole thing?" "We need proof," David repeated. "Without proof, it's just your word against his." Harding filed for eviction. The court date was set. I spent weeks preparing, poring over documents, organizing my evidence, and rehearsing my testimony. David was a rock, guiding me through the legal process and keeping my spirits up. The day of the hearing arrived. The small claims courtroom was crowded and stuffy. Harding sat at the plaintiff's table, looking smug and self-assured. Barry loomed behind him, arms crossed, radiating menace. I sat at the defendant's table, feeling a knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach. This was it. Harding presented his case first. He claimed I was a disruptive tenant who had deliberately damaged the elevator. He presented photos of the scratch, along with a fabricated invoice for the repair. Then it was my turn. I presented my evidence: the certified letter, the temperature logs, the photos of the elevator, Sarah's statement. I calmly and methodically refuted each of Harding's claims, pointing out inconsistencies and highlighting his violations of city ordinances. David then called Sarah to the stand. She testified about the illegal laundry fees and the erratic heating. She also confirmed she had seen me in the lobby on the day of the alleged vandalism. Then came the moment of truth. David called Maria to the stand. Harding objected, arguing that Maria was unreliable and her testimony was based on hearsay. The judge overruled his objection. Maria shuffled to the stand, her eyes darting nervously around the room. David gently questioned her, drawing out the story about Harding and Barry in the elevator. Harding erupted. "She's lying. This is ridiculous." The judge banged his gavel. "Mr. Harding, control yourself. One more outburst and I will hold you in contempt." David pressed on. Maria, despite her initial nervousness, held her ground. Her testimony was surprisingly detailed and consistent. She even remembered the time of day and the type of key Barry had used. Under cross-examination, Harding tried to discredit Maria, questioning her memory and accusing her of being senile. But Maria stood firm. She might have been old, but she wasn't stupid. Finally, David asked Harding directly, "Did you instruct Barry to damage the elevator panel?" Harding hesitated. He stammered. He denied it, but his eyes darted around the room, betraying his guilt. David rested his case. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with a steely gaze, listened intently to the closing arguments. She then delivered her verdict. The court finds in favor of the defendant, Liam Miller. The eviction case is dismissed. Furthermore, the court finds Mr. Harding liable for damages. He is ordered to pay Mr. Miller's legal fees, as well as compensation for the illegal rent increase and the emotional distress caused by the false accusations. A collective gasp swept through the courtroom. Harding's face turned crimson. Barry looked like he wanted to punch someone. As I walked out of the courtroom, Sarah rushed over and gave me a hug. "You did it. Liam, you actually did it." Maria, beaming with pride, patted me on the arm. "I knew you could do it. Dear, I always knew you had it in you." The victory in court was just the beginning. Armed with the judge's ruling, I started digging deeper into Harding's business practices. I discovered he owned several other properties and had a long history of tenant complaints. I created a website simple, no frills, called Harding Tenant Rights. It contained information about tenant rights, links to relevant city ordinances, and a forum for tenants to share their experiences. I also automated a system that would scour public records for any violations of building codes on Harding's properties and automatically report them to the city. I'm a software engineer, remember? This was child's play. The city inspectors started showing up regularly at Harding's buildings. Fines piled up. Lawsuits were filed. His reputation plummeted. He tried to retaliate, sending threatening letters and hiring a private investigator to dig up dirt on me, but I was prepared. I documented everything, kept a low profile, and let the legal system run its course. Eventually, the pressure became too much. Harding was forced to sell the building. The new landlord was a breath of fresh air. He was responsive, responsible, and treated the tenants with respect. He even fixed the chipped tile in my bathroom. I went back to my quiet life, content with the knowledge that I had stood up for myself and for my neighbors. I still maintained the Harding tenant rights website, though, just in case. A few months later, I ran into Maria in the lobby. She was clutching a newspaper, her eyes wide with excitement. "Liam, dear, have you seen this?" She showed me the article. It was about Harding. He was facing multiple charges of fraud and embezzlement. Apparently, his shady business practices had finally caught up with him. I smiled. Petty revenge? Maybe. But it was also about justice, about holding the powerful accountable. As I walked to my apartment, I thought about Harding. He probably regretted the day he decided to mess with the quiet, unassuming software engineer who lived in apartment 3B. He messed with the wrong tenant.